Short workouts for women over 50 sound like a dream? Let's talk time. Warning though, this episode may trigger negative comments from trainers who disagree or who have said shorter programs. I know you love short workouts, and I'm frequently asked for 30-minute workouts. Here's the thing. It's almost impossible to create 30-minute workouts. Well, that's okay. But the ones that effectively increase your lean muscle and increase your bone density are harder to happen in 30 minutes. Except, listen closely, for those of you who are not doing anything at all, starting low to moderate frequency or low to moderate duration exercise, either one has a more powerful influence on your health than does moving from a moderate level to a more vigorous level. Even infrequent activity has an influence on your health. Say you go for a walk, maybe once a week, still beneficial. So if you are not moving at all, listen no further to this podcast. Go for a walk instead, or take me with you in your ear. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top struggles and concerns, but most of all, I hope to inspire you so that you change your expectations about the way that you age. Because once you do that, you change what you look for resources and for solutions so that you can change the way you physically, mentally, and spiritually age. I share what to eat, how to move, and how to change your mindset so you can have the energy and the vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. Today's episode is sponsored by Stronger. It's my 12-week Tone and Define program. And believe you me, tone comes from building muscle. I know you may think you don't want to build muscle, but yes, you do. I'll put the link all about it in the show notes. Let's dive into this episode. So yes, for the rest of you, in 30 minutes, you could go for a walk and you can do yoga and you can do interval training, that all from start to end in 30 minutes. And it is so worth it. And yet when we look at the research on strength training and the need for a warm up and a cool down, even at minimum for each of those warm up and cool down, we've used 10 minutes. Some of you skipping the warm up ignore the fact that a 10-minute warm up will do these things for you. It increases your comfort during exercise. You work harder, but without thinking it is. It enhances your oxygen delivery to working muscles, which increases energy expenditure during exercise, lubricates joints before exercise, reduces risk of injury, and improves the benefit of the exercise that you're about to do. Short workouts for women over 50, please do not skip the warm-up to get it. And that means proper 5 to 10 minute cool down. What does that do? Makes your next workout better, enhances your flexibility, and prevents stiffness, soreness, or what's called DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. At the very least, that's 10 minutes between the two, warm up and cool down, and at the most, it's 15 to 20 minutes. So if you have arthritis or stiff joints, a longer, more gradual warm-up is recommended, and that's true also for those of you with respiratory challenges like asthma, COPD, or even long-haul post-you-know-what virus issues. Say you're hoping for a 30-minute workout. You still have your fingers crossed I'm going to deliver here. Let's look at how beneficial and how realistic it is. If you do the warm-up and cool-down, depending on the length, that leaves 10 to 20 minutes left for the main set if we're shooting for a 30-minute workout. Now, if you're doing strength training with the hope of boosting muscle mass, so you see muscle tone, you boost metabolism, potentially so that in the long run you improve body composition and maybe encourage weight loss, you will need multiple sets of exercises for your major muscle groups. That is 3 or 4 sets would be best, but at minimum 2 and you're going to get better results from doing 3 sets. So this is particularly true, though, if you're doing a really short workout. Now imagine if we compare the impact, the positive impact on you of doing 8 different exercises, just once each, that were for all of your major muscle groups versus choosing 3 exercises and doing 3 or 4 sets of them. Which one's the better metabolism boost? The latter. You want to choose the biggest muscle groups you can, exercises that focus on them, create your volume by doing at least 3 sets, 4 if you can fit that in, to muscular fatigue, not exercising in a frenzy. We're not trying to get your heart rate up, although strength training major muscle groups will do that. So let's talk about split versus total body, because I will often hear someone in a certain voice say, well, I do it every day because I do a different body part. Okay, said with respect, kind of, right? There's one other caveat. Many women and trainers will swear by these split routines. Doing one body part a day does make it easier in theory to fit exercise in. However, there's a loss of the metabolism boost from exercise compared to total body. And until they don't experience good results, that's when people tend to drop off. Prior to the point where estrogen drops noticeably, significantly, this is when you start noticing, oh my gosh, my skin is a little more crepey. I can see the lines on my décolleté and on my neck. Never could see that before. Maybe I'm seeing cellulite. The crow's feet are more noticeable. That's skin changes as a result of estrogen, but many of you will also see a loss of muscle, loss of lean, and or a gain of belly fat or overall body fat. Doing these single body parts, or multiple, saying chest and triceps. That is your chest and the back of the arm in pressing exercises one day, and your back, your biceps, and maybe your legs and shoulders different days. The bump in metabolism boost is far less than when you do total body. And although you might think, well, that's just math, right? Then I can say, okay, I bump it a little, I bump it a little. I do that 4 times a week. Then that's going to equal the 2 times a week far greater, but it doesn't. So in 30 minutes to get a big bump in metabolism, you're really going to struggle unless you're only doing lower body that day, glutes and quads and hamstrings, namely. So really important that you realize total body creates 8 times the metabolism boost than compared to a split routine. So let's think about time. You have 8 to 10 major muscle groups. If we're going to do an exercise for each, even if we do some compound exercises where we target 2 or 3 muscles at the same time, to repeat them 3 or 4 times, we're going to need at least 20 minutes. We add that to a warm up and a cool down. Okay, well, minimally, we have then 30 minutes. But that's all you can do. And you've got to think about, will I go heavy enough? And can I quickly get from one exercise to the next? Because I find that's problematic for a lot of our women, that it's not just lie down on the floor, do a chest press, and or let's stand up, do a squat, stand up and do a bent over row, lie down again, do a chest press. The up and down takes a little longer. So you're not just doing a minute of each exercise, but there's a setup, there's a picking up the weights, there's a getting into position. That has to be very efficiently done. But remember, if we go too fast, we are potentially slowing down our results. How's the irony in that? We go too fast, we slow down our results because we're letting momentum take over. We're not lifting as heavy and reaching full muscular fatigue. That's that place where just temporarily I can't lift another run really well. Not with good form, not without cheating. So imagine we have this threshold. It's very similar when you eat protein. You have to eat enough protein at every meal to have muscle protein synthesis. But with exercise, it's similar. We have to have a certain amount of volume in each workout. We're going to define that in just a minute. So bear with me. If you don't hit that level of volume, and volume and where it comes from, don't get confused with it's not just doing more days. It's not just doing more time. So it's important that you really fully understand those split routines. Also, if you miss a day, you've got less latitude for moving those workouts easily into another day. Your entire week can more easily be thrown off, or you'll lack the stimulus. If you do a split routine, let's say you chest and back on one day, you back and biceps on another day, you take a rest, you do your legs, you do shoulders. What have we done? How many times have we stimulated any one muscle group in a week? One. It's not enough. You need ideally two to be adequate stimulus. And yet, every study I've seen shared and included in books, blogs, and podcasts since 2013 emphasizes volume and intensity for women over 40. Let's define it. Volume should come from repeated quality of major muscle group exercises, not from a variety of exercises. So do a few things really well to boost your metabolism most. And likewise with bone density, volume comes from a combination of weight, repetitions, and sets. And though at first glance you may think, well, that more repetitions is better, it's not true. If you can go heavy and fewer reps times more sets, your volume will most benefit. So let me say that again. You go really heavy, you do fewer repetitions. Say you can only lift it 5 times, and you do that, say 3 sets or 4, your volume is going to have the biggest benefit both for muscle and for bone density. Since 1995, I've been teaching workshops, conducting trainings for women, and the trainers who coach them about really what matters for bone density specifically and for metabolism. And it is heavy, and specifically on the hip, the spine, and the wrist that benefit. Those are what we call the osteo zones. And I've shared often and everywhere one of my simple go-to workouts. When the time crunch grabs me, I choose one of each of a compound push, pull, and lower body exercise. I'm going to try to put a video in the show notes for you as well. Compound exercises in short workouts for women over 40 look like this. So let's say you were in a gym doing a leg extension, though, and compare this to squats. So you're in a gym, you're doing a leg extension machine. So if you're sitting down in a chair right now, imagine just lengthening your leg from the knee straight out, back down. That motion against resistance, you're using your quadriceps muscle in an isolated way, really just that one. So if you're short on time, that is a waste of your time. Ideally, we'd want to do squats where you're using your glutes, your quads, and your hamstrings, or a lunge if you're able to. So better way to spend that exercise time is doing those compound mini muscle exercises in exchange for those isolated ones. The more time you have, certainly expanding is adequate as long as you are not in adrenal fatigue. The more you exercise, the more worn out you're going to be. So the goal is to minimize your fatigue after exercise. During the set, very different than just exhausted. Here's how this works. So as I write this, I'm traveling. I got up on Friday morning before the second leg of a road trip, driving 6 more hours. I wanted to be on the road early, so I did a short weight training workout of exactly this nature, a push and a pull and a leg. I did a chest press, a bent over row, and squats with as heavy a weight as I could, knowing I'm only doing 3 sets. My volume would come from the weight versus the repetitions in the sets. And there's one more thing we have to consider when we wish or we're hoping for shorter workouts. Stick-to-itiveness of the exercise. So by that, I mean, of course, adherence. Exercise obstacles and adherence have been science of this behavior change researcher that is me for 38 years. We need people to stick to it. We don't just need to come up with pie in the sky programs that this would be awesome. We've got to get started and we've got to keep moving. So with adherence to exercise among older women, twice weekly strength training for greater than 4 months resulted in 79% adherence. Listen, that's pretty good. Adherence was positively associated, by the way, with age. The older we are, the more urgency we feel, and with perceptions of overall good health. Now, we don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. You lift weights, therefore you perceive you're in pretty good health, or you're in pretty good health, and so you're inclined to do things like weight training. Interestingly enough, adherence was also strongly associated with the exercise leader's prior participation in sports, him or herself, and in prior experience leading programs. That was a big factor for women over 60 in this particular study. Directly quoting from the research, despite compelling scientific research, widespread public health recommendations among women 45 to 64 years and 65 to 74 years, only 18 and 11% respectively perform physical activities that enhance and maintain muscle strength and endurance 2 or more times per week. So, what helps? What helps us get started and stay? Community. So although personal involvement and commitment on your part to any exercise program are essential, studies indicate that initiating individual behavior change is more likely to happen with social or environmental change and support. What that means is, especially if you're in a household where not everybody's choosing the same healthy habits as you, where maybe somebody else is resisting you increasing your protein. Maybe they're resisting the fact that you want to find time to get the exercise in, whether you're on vacation or not. You may be swimming upstream. And if that's true, you've got to look for that community outside of your immediate environment. A large number of women, as you might guess, drop out because of time. They report time and preference of exercising at home. So they're dropping out. The report is on dropping out of gyms. But in part, there is the time-saving factor of exercising at home, which actually bumps your adherence and ability to, because it's seen as much more convenient. As age increased, again, just to report this one more time, we were much more likely to adhere to strength training. We clearly gain a sense of urgency about how it helps with metabolism, bone density, blood sugar stabilization. For example, for every added decade of life in the study, participants were approximately 10 times as likely to adhere to strength training. So how much? 1, 2, or 3 sessions per week. One small study in 2013 found no difference. None. Yes, I was shocked. Researchers divided women over 60 into those that did 1 aerobic and 1 resistance, 2 aerobic and 2 resistance, or 3 each aerobic and resistance training sessions. Now, a lot of adults in the United States would think more is better. The 3 group must have done better. Not so much. 0 difference in muscle strength, cardiovascular fitness, and function. They were all assessed. There were slight differences, but they weren't significant, statistically significant among the groups. The 3 mile per hour walk test is what they did to test cardiovascular fitness. The women did, from a pre and post evaluation standpoint, their average was 112 heart rate pre and improved to a 92 after. Dramatic, but that even occurred in those that did strength once, cardio once. Now, we do know scientifically there is a slight cardiovascular benefit positive influence when you're strength training. You're obviously not breathing, but there is essentially a very small bump that is almost like interval training. There was a visible increase in the strength of lower body comparing twice weekly to the one time weekly. So dramatically, if you're looking to strength train and maybe maintain where you're at, it's okay to go on vacation and just get once. You may maintain, but you're not going to probably gain. So there was only a slight increase of cardiovascular fitness for the 3 time per week group compared to the 2 time, and of course to the 1. For energy expenditure, however, it is a completely different story. And this study is one I've shared and included in You Still Got It, Girl, my book from 2015. Energy expenditure and weight control. If those interest you, come back to me if you're drifting. There was a difference, definitely. Only the 2 time a week group in a similar study of women who were 60 to 74 increased in total energy expenditure and activity-related energy expenditure. So the 2 time a week people were standouts. Now listen to this. So I'm going to say it again. Total energy expenditure means defined by all day, like 24-hour period, 7 days a week. They were expending more energy than those who exercised 3 times, doing 3 strength, 3 aerobic. And of course, 1 makes sense. But the big forehead slap is their activity-related energy expenditure was also greater, even though they were only doing 2 strength, 2 aerobic compared to 3 strength, 3 aerobic. So really, if we just add them up, 4 exercise sessions compared to 6, still had more activity-related energy expenditure. How can that be? Are you asking that? When 3 times weekly compared to 2 times weekly exercise was performed, the effort level and the calorie burn was less than the activity performed during 2 time weekly workouts. Why? Well, exercising fresh, totally recovered, results in expending more energy without feeling as if it is more effort. There's so much difference that increasing exercise sessions by 33% more did not equate to more activity-related energy expenditure. And often, in order to perform 3 sessions within 7 days, these sessions are performed before the full recovery is achieved. So entering a workout sore, tired, or with muscles still in need of repair, it'll be less effective for advancing your fitness level. As for TEE, which is total energy expenditure, we know that couch compensation effect occurs with those who are overzealous in exercise sessions, resulting in more sedentary hours the remainder of the day. Total energy expenditure for individuals in jobs like mail delivery, and I mean postal, like door to door, putting it out there, or UPS or Amazon delivery drivers that are in and out of their vehicles regularly throughout the day, it's been notoriously higher than jobs requiring desk work for the same time span, same 8 hours or 9 hours of a workday. When women gain enough strength and cardiorespiratory benefit to boost their energy, but not so much that it drains them or creates couch compensation, it also boosts activity outside of their sessions. It's similar to the thermogenic effect of eating certain foods. So let's talk thermogenesis. What we're after is a thermogenic effect, meaning turn up your thermostat. Be a calorie burner, both from food and from exercise. If we desire to boost metabolism or maintain it as we age, we need that. We'll stay focused on exercise here in this episode, except to say this. Regularly consuming high protein meals, evenly distributed throughout the day, and I'm talking at the very minimum 30 grams, not stopping at 30 grams, a minimum of 30 grams of protein per meal, evenly throughout the day, does a bump in your thermogenesis, and it supports muscle protein synthesis that a woman over 50 desperately needs for bone and muscle. If you compare thermogenic effects of cleaning house, going up and down stairs, to sitting and resting, which wins, do you suppose? And I'm not going to give you the answer. You got that? Comparing thermogenic effect of walking a dog 1 or 2 miles versus around the block, which one wins? Compare playing 18 holes of golf or spending the day gardening to reading a book. You get the idea, but the point is, when you exercise in your sweet spot, you are motivated, inspired to do all of those things. That will help you burn calories all day long, every hour, every day. And you'll do so maintaining or gaining the desire, the motivation that this sounds like a great idea, but not just sounds like, you'll do it. So back to short workouts for women over 40 or short life really is kind of the choice. Maybe that's a dramatic statement, maybe not. A reasonable workout week is this: about 90 minutes split in 2 sessions of strength training. So it's 45 each, and 2 sessions of 30 minutes max, might be 20, of cardiovascular training. That could be high intensity interval training or high intensity repeat training. The rest of the week then leaves plenty of room and energy for walking daily, for golfing, for yoga, for Pilates, and generally loving life. We don't classify going for a walk as cardiovascular exercise. Now, if you're just getting off the couch, of course it is. But what's really important is that you see we walk and need to because we sit so much more than we ever have. If you want a done-for-you program that provides this kind of combined strength training with suggestions on how you incorporate your own high-intensity intervals and or walking regularly, Stronger Tone and Define is open a few times a year. I want you to learn more by going to the show notes today. I'll put the link in. We are, as I record this live, open for enrollment. If you happen to get here and we're closed, you can get on the notifications list to learn more about it when it is open. No obligation. You'll just be there. I will put the resources. If you are a prove it to me girl and you like to see the science, the resources are always in the notes. And show notes will be at flipping50.com/short workouts for women over 50. What are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 today.